Hello, everybody. Welcome to our positive parenting sessions on Zoom. Today, we are going to talk about some insights into how do we promote self-learning in young children. And today on this call, we also have Munira, who's the co-founder of Blue Blocks. So both of us are going to do this session together. Let's see if any of you have any questions to begin with. Let's begin with some question answers. Any questions you would want me to address specifically? No questions? Anything you would want me to address specifically? No? All right. Anything you would want to share from last few sessions while others are joining the call? No. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello,
Yeah,
Pavika.
Monica.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Monica.
Say that you so much information and knowledge, just
We
I feel like hearing again and again and again and trying to understand. So thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, both of you, having us. I'm so obliged. Wanted to thank both of you.
we totally got your acknowledgement and gratitude, Monica. That
Lunkitu.
really, that really means a lot. Yeah.
నాకు ఈ బట్టలు మడతాయంట్రా.
Yeah. Yeah. Got that. Karthik, you want to say something?
Yes, Pawan. So, for today's topic, I'm sure you will cover all this in a very good way, in your own style, which we all like. But just one thing, what I'm looking forward to listen is, um, how much involvement as parents, you know, um, is the right involvement, right, with respect to learning at home.
Mm-hmm.
For the child, should we just want to know our territory here, not cross that. So sometimes it is a little blur.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we will talk about the adult role for sure, Karthik. And particularly, you will realize how when we talk about promoting self-learning, it is more about understanding the child than the amount of time we spend. In fact, we would want to lead it to a place where we spend very little time, particularly with regard to their learning and development. We spend time. Yeah, that was the. We will still be spending a lot of time, but that's for other reasons and not for their learning and development. We want to reach a point where children are learning through this self-learning mechanism totally, all by themselves. Yeah. Anusha, you want to say something? All right. Anybody else? Couple of you have unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Please go ahead. Suman. All right, great. So let's understand few dynamics about this self-learning. Before even we talk about how to promote self-learning, first let's understand why self-learning. Munira, can we create a document? Yeah, thanks. So why self-learning? Why do we want to focus on self-learning? Why? Would anybody like to answer this? Why self-learning? Why are we interested in children learning all by themselves? Why self-learning?
Yeah, Pawan. Ultimately, we want them to be independent, and the learning process should be driven internally, right? Not externally.
So to make them independent, and then it has to be self-driven. That's very interesting.
Self-driven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Karthik. Somebody else was sharing. Vishal, were you the one who was sharing?
Nothing here. Nothing.
All right. Why self-learning?
Hi,
Self-learning begins
I'm
at very
Monica.
early age,
Self-learning begins very early. Okay.
very early. So we need to nurture that skill.
Very interesting. Self-learning begins very early, and we have to nurture that skill. Got that. Thanks, Sugna.
So that will lead to problem-solving skills at later age.
That will help them solve problem-solving skills at a later age. Very true. Thanks.
I'm Monica. I want to say
Yeah, Monica.
that uh, every child wants to do self-learning, and when he does it, he finds happiness in that, and it makes him calm. He wants to do it again and again. So
Excellent. So it makes them happy, and then they would want to keep repeating. That's what you have noticed, right?
yes, yes.
Very interesting. Yeah,
And also they become very confident. Then they want to show it to others,
that leads
and
to confidence, and they would want to show it to others. Yes, you're absolutely
self-confidence, self-esteem develops. They speak about it, so they learn how to language develops. So self-learning is like self-motivated. They want to do more. They want to learn more. So it's like a cycle.
excellent. Excellent. Self-learning leads to self-motivation, and you also said something very important and profound, that it leads to confidence, right? Very good. Brilliant. What else?
We use a lot of real-life examples that the child can easily relate to.
Huh, but how are you connecting that to self-learning, Sugna? Why
So
self-learning? How will it help? Why?
You get to choose the mode of learning.
Can you repeat that, Fatima?
You
One
get
second,
to
I'm
choose.
muting everybody, and then please unmute yourself and speak up. Yeah. Fatima, please go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself.
The child gets to learn their mode of learning.
The child gets to learn more. Is that what you said?
Yeah, to choose the mode of learning.
The child also gets to choose the mode of learning. Very, very interesting. And Amit also said, when they are ready, then the child can explore at his own pace. So with self-learning, what happens is, with self-learning, they get to explore and learn at their own pace, which is very, very important, isn't it? Jyoti has mentioned in the chat, self-learning enables individual to have more opportunities in life. Yes. Sham said, self-learning creates interest in children. Yes. Very good. What else? What else? What else? Why self-learning? How does it help?
Pavan, one point I want to add is I think self-learning, increases their ability to develop more other skills.
Self-learning will help them develop further skills.
Yeah.
Like, can you give one interesting example? This is definitely interesting.
Uh, Not getting anything in my mind.
All right, but you are totally correct.
Yeah.
The more they are learning things independently, that will lead to the developing more skills. See, no adult can ever tell that we understand children totally. Can we ever say that? Is there any adult who can say that we know children totally, completely, and understand them, understand their potential, understand what they want? So at least we as educators who've been trained very extensively, who have been working with children for last 12 years, working with parents for last 15 years, have been doing our own research all the time. Yet I cannot say that we understand children fully. Now, while we acknowledge that we don't understand children fully, if we are promoting self-learning, then we are very open to learn about children. When they are learning all by themselves, when they're exploring things themselves, we start to understand them at a whole different level. That's our only way. Because each child is an individual, each child is capable of causing miracles. And that miracles can only happen when they are learning all by themselves. Because when we start teaching, we will be biased. We think they are capable of only learning this much. We are only capable, they are only capable of, doing only X amount of things. When we are teaching, we are all the time constrained. We have our own barriers about children's abilities. But when they are learning, there is no barrier for them. When they are exploring, there are no barriers. When they are creating something, there are no barriers. Isn't it? So, through self-learning, children can reach to their optimum potential. Everybody getting that? So, is somebody doing this, Munira? These lines? Munira, you there? Is somebody else?
Yes, I think somebody's child has probably got access to the laptop and is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can
So I'm trying to erase, because unless I erase, I can't remove the annotation.
Yeah. So, whoever is doing this, can I request you not to do this, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, what we are writing, Munira, one of the points we just discussed is it is through self-learning, children can reach to their optimum potential. Adult-driven learning, which is guided by adults, driven by adults, we will always be constrained and limited. Do you all get that? Yeah. What else? Why self-learning? Why?
In self-learning, they could make mistakes and learn from them.
Excellent. That's the only way to keep making mistakes and keep learning. Keep making mistakes and keep learning.
So the concepts become stronger
Absolutely.
and they learn uh, to take on failure also. I mean, it's okay to make a mistake. So
Yes.
that would help them later in life.
Yes. And see, when children are driven by self-learning versus driven by adult guidance, they exactly will pick up things which the brain is asking them to. They will exactly pick up an activity which will cater to the neurological hunger for learning. With the adult driven, if you look at our traditional classroom, 9 to 10 language, 10 to 11 math. Now, some children at 10:30, 11, now they are getting interested in math. And then 11 o'clock, teacher says, close the books. And now the science teacher comes in. Hurry, I just got interested in math. I want to do more of this. But no, there is a timetable. There can be a timetable for learning, but there can't be a fixed timetable for what the child should be learning at that point of time. Like I still remember till grade 7, I used to love math. And whenever I would do math, I would want to totally get engrossed. And then the teacher says, time up. Now you have to start learning English or science. But I'm very curious about math. That day, if I was allowed to do math for at my own, at my own will, I would have done math for few hours some of those days. And next day, when the math thing came, that interest of mine was gone. I was already struggling or dealing with some of my own concerns by then. Everybody getting that? It is it is this self-learning which can promote the ultimate development of children. We have some more points. It prepares children for higher skills, self-realistic goals. Children can set goals as per their own development. Yes, self-learners do not thrive for any kind of superficial praises and critics. Very interesting, Jyoti. When they are learning all by themselves, the joy of learning is more than enough. They are not dependent on superficial praises from somebody else. Ashika said self-learning helps them know what is the correct way to do any work and what is not. Yes, it is the self-learning which can stimulate the creativity. Self-learning will lead to the ultimate creativity and innovation. Creativity and innovation cannot happen when it is adult driven. When children are drawing, adults want children to draw elephant. No, the child wants to draw something else. The child wants to draw the cat which he or she has seen. And if you allow the child to draw the cat which he has seen to begin with, eventually the child would want to draw the cat of his or her own imagination. Even with most of the art classes, it is the art teacher who is asking children to draw or design or do something specific to what the teacher thinks. Whereas as an art teacher, our role has to be to introduce different strokes to children, introduce different drawing instruments to children, showing how to mix colors. All we do is give them tools, teach them how to use those tools, give them some basics of, there is this cross stroke, this is the simple stroke, this is the complex strokes. Show them, how to do different kinds of scribblings and then let them come up with their own. But everything we do becomes so mechanical when it is driven by adults that it will never lead to creativity and innovation. If you look at, we are a country of 1.3 billion people, and tell me in which sector or industry India is innovating. Not even one sector there is any innovation in our country, because our current academic system and a lot to do with our Indian parenting kills every possible aspect of the creative minds and innovative ability. Like tomorrow, we are doing a session exclusively on building innovative minds. If you are interested in that topic, don't miss out tomorrow's session. We'll talk more elaborately on this tomorrow. So everybody clear about why self-learning? I mean, you being on this call itself demonstrates that this is what you really believe in, and this is why you are here on this call, right? So, having understood why self learning, having understood the importance and criticality of self learning, let's now understand how do we promote self learning? What will it take for children to be independent? What will it take for children to start learning all by themselves? What leads to self learning? I know most of you, at least 50% of you have been attending our sessions for last 3 to 4 weeks. So I would like to hear from some of you now. What do you think will lead to self-learning?
Satisfaction.
Okay. If they are satisfied, that will lead to self-learning. Okay. What else? So here, what I would like to further add to what you just said is children's emotional development has to be taken care before they start doing self-learning. If they are dealing with any insecurities, if they are dealing with any emotional issues due to whatever situation at home or due to how parents or teachers are dealing with them, they cannot focus, they cannot concentrate. If they cannot focus and concentrate, they cannot learn, right? So we have to take care of their emotional development, emotional stability. So emotional stability is what will lead to them exploring. Correct? Yeah. What else? Uh, Tasneem has written self-awareness. Yes, self-awareness is what will lead to self-learning. The understanding their strengths and weakness. See, with young children, they're still not in a position to understand their strengths and weakness. So we would talk about the strengths and weakness at a later stage. But yeah, they need to have that self-awareness where they understand what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. What else? What will lead to self-learning? What else will lead to self-learning? What are some of the prerequisites? What are some of the components required for self-learning?
Freedom.
Excellent. There has to be freedom. Who said that?
I'm Saroj.
Yeah, absolutely. Freedom is one of the core component for self-learning. Brilliant. What else? What else? Anybody else?
Confidence in the child, our confidence
Environment.
in the child.
Sorry, one at a time, please. Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Need to have confidence in the child. We should have a confidence in the child.
Excellent. Who was that?
Jyoti.
Yes, Jyoti, we need to have confidence and trust in our child. If we do not have confidence and if we do not have trust in children, they can never do it all by themselves. Amazing. Very good. What else?
Now, in one of the sessions, you told us, upon this Karthik,
Yeah,
in one of the sessions, I remember very vividly, we told that we do not own the child, right? So, I mean, that, I think, relating to that one, so having no predeterministic goals for the child, you
yes,
know,
yes,
um, I think that would be a start.
yeah. So there are two things, So not having goals, then sometimes we don't know what we are offering to the child or what we are exposing the child to. So we still need to have some goals so that based on your goal you will provide some resource based on so
Got
you
it. At
can
a high
still have,
level.
yeah, you can still have goals, but you're
Okay.
not driven by the outcome of the goal. You look at a goal
Got it.
to see what kind of resource do we provide.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Thanks. What else? What else?
without any stress,
So
with a
what?
stress free.
Yes. So there can't be we can't stress out the child. We can't force children, right? Children should have freedom. Correct? Yes. What else?
So can I?
Yeah, please.
We should. We should allow them to do things. Keeping safety in our mind. I mean, we should allow them to expose for things.
Excellent. So we take care of their safety and security. And once we know the environment is safe and secure, we let them explore freely. Freedom for exploration after taking the safety into consideration, right? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. What else? See, we did talk about safety. Now, how about discipline? Do you think there has to be certain amount of discipline for them to be able to learn independently? So discipline is one of the criteria. If there's no discipline, there's no self-learning possible. Without discipline, we cannot give them much freedom. So we give freedom, we help them be disciplined, and freedom and discipline leads to what? Independence. All right. What else? What else? How
Sir,
about,
we should first I mean, we should make ourselves as a role model for them first, and then only they can learn from us.
yeah. So we are the role models whether we like it or not, and the more we are modeling we being independent, the more they start to become independent. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
How about their ability to focus and concentrate? If they cannot focus and concentrate, is self-learning possible? No. So ability to focus and concentrate needs to be developed, needs to be nurtured in the very early years. What will promote self-learning is the adult understanding the child, the adult having total understanding of the child. The adult need to understand the child's psychology. The adult needs to understand what are children's developmental needs. So can we make a heading as adult's role, Munira? So adult's role here is first understanding children, understanding what age group are we addressing, understanding your 2 year old 3 year old's needs. What are your 2 year old 3 year old needs? Understanding their psychology, understanding their milestones. Without this, any aid which you give will fall flat because the child just cannot relate to you. If you cannot relate to children, children can never relate to you. So what are some of the developmental needs which we need to understand? What are some of the developmental needs in the first 6 years and 6 to 12? There are developmental needs like language development. So we need to understand the need for language development. We need to understand the need for sensorial development. We need to understand the need for movement development. We need to understand their intellectual developmental needs. We need to understand their emotional developmental needs. We need to understand their social developmental needs. Your all these needs are different for a 1 year old, for a 3 year old, for a 4 year old. Once you understand their developmental needs and once you provide them with the right resource, right material, that will automatically lead to self-learning. Everybody with me? What is also important is developing certain willpower. If a child doesn't have a certain willpower, he or she can never learn. So how do we support willpower? How do we support the development of willpower? Is by giving choice to children. We offer choice. Would you like to do this or would you like to do this? Would you like to eat apple or would you like to would you like to eat banana? That is what will help. So we have few more suggestions, few more pointers in the chat. Hita wrote, not judging the child's outcome. Yes, it's very important that we do not judge the child's outcome. Give the child enough time to explore and experiment. Yes. Sham wrote, creating internal environment. Creating that right kind of environment that can go into the adult's role. The adult's role is to create the right kind of nurturing environment. And what would that right kind of nurturing environment be? Environment which is safe. Only an environment which is safe, children will start to explore. What is important is the environment should have all the material and resources with regard to their language development, with regard to their motor coordination, with regard to social development, with regard to intellectual development, with regard to emotional development. So the adult's role is to create that right environment, right conducive developmental environment. Everybody with me? All right. Would you like to add something here, Munira?
Yes. So taking on from what Pavan just mentioned about the right nurturing environment, or the environment which is conducive to the child's developments, let me share a little bit about how that can be done right from a very young age. So while children are born, soon after birth, we see that they have certain abilities, and we've already spoken about the skills, certain powers and potentials that they're born with. Now, if I have to ask any of you that did you have to teach your mother tongue to your children? Or did you have to teach certain things that you do as rituals at your home? Did you have to teach them specifically every day? Or did children just learn it by means of they watching you, or with the help of their absorbent mind? I'm sure all of you would say that, especially with language, it is the work of the children, and the way they exercise their absorbent mind, and the way they utilize their sensitive periods, that they actually are self-learning all the time. So children are designed to self-learn. They are designed to develop on their own only in the presence of a conducive environment. So if we look at the basic difference between human beings and other species, one of the basic differences between these two are that animals have a certain habitat. Certain animals can only live in certain conditions, whereas human beings have the amazing capacity to adapt to any situation and any circumstance, any environment, any habitat. Now, this is nothing but self learning. So the human beings were designed for self learning. So, right from the moment that they start saying basic sounds, if we provide the environment where those sounds are reinforced, or every time your 3-month old baby is looking at you and saying those sounds, you respond to those sounds. That is the provision of the conducive environment. When we notice that the child has started rolling, we don't put the child on the bed, but put them on the floor and let them roll on the floor, roll as much as they want, turn as much as they want. And that is the provision of the conducive right kind of environment. As they grow a little more, giving them enough scope. So between the age of 1 to 2.5 to 2.5 years of age, they have very high need for sensorial exploration, and their need for the exploration of language development is also very high. So giving them an environment where they can explore, they can express themselves, even if they are not saying the right kind of words. So we have spoken in earlier sessions about how we do not correct children by correcting. The same thing will apply here. So what will promote self-learning? Where you do not correct the child's incorrect language, but provide the right kind of language, and they will pick it up and learn on their own. Where we do not stop them from exploring their world at the sensorial level, but observe what they're doing. So one of the tools that will help you as a parent um, is to develop the ability to observe your child. See, most often than not, we feel that we are troubleshooters for our children. If there is a problem, we are supposed to solve it. If they have hit a roadblock, we are supposed to remove that roadblock. If they're finding something difficult, we are supposed to make it easy. But that is not our role as parents. Our role or our job as adults and as parents is to help children overcome all those obstacles, and come up with their own solutions. So how does that happen from a very young age? Unless we observe children very keenly, we will never know what is it that they are trying to figure out, what is it that they're trying to learn. I remember when my son was very young, he would always be very curious about what are the things which are under my kitchen cabinet. So I have a little space under the kitchen cabinet. He would be constantly very curious about it. And when I saw that it was nothing but there were a lot of these tiny like small pulses and rice and all of that would have found its way under the cabinet, and that is what was attracting him. I would provide the dal and rice, and that would take care of his needs at that moment. So observing the children, that what is it that is attracting them, what is it that they are doing over and over again. So children have that, the attraction towards a certain thing in the environment, and they will show that to you, that this is what I like right now and this is what I want to be exposed to. The minute you identify that, the minute you have observed that very keenly, and you provide that kind of an environment in which that need is taken care of, that is nothing but your conducive nurturing environment. And post 2.5 years, we know that children have very strong need for social development, and that is the time they have a need for peer group. How do we support that? That is supported with the provision of a peer group. That is supported with giving them the right kind of skills to be with other children. What is required to be with other children? We need to follow this basic rules, basic norms, and also understand what is it that another person is saying. So all of this combines into the provision of the right. So the environment that we are talking about is again not restricted to your home. Of course, right now we are all restricted to the home, but the environment we are talking about is not just provision of the home environment. This environment extends to any physical space that your child has access to, as well as the mental state in which the parent is. This mental state in which the parent is also an emotional environment for the child. Like, how much is the child being allowed to express himself? How much is the child being allowed to explore his world and explore the surroundings, to communicate, to interact with his environment? So it is that emotional and psychological preparation that we as parents also require, which becomes a psychological environment for the child. So that is also very important in the creation of this right kind of nurturing environment for the child. Yes, Pawan, over to you.
Yeah, got that, Munira. So let's take some questions here. Are you all getting the whole context of self-learning? Somebody is trying to tamper with what we are sharing. Can you please stop doing that? If your
Somebody
children are doing
seems
it, yeah.
somebody seems to like this a lot, I guess, and is using it as a paint board.
Thanks. All right. What are you getting? What are you getting? What are you not getting? How else would you like to us to support you? Give us some insights into what are you getting or what are you not getting, and we'll build from there.
So, Pawan, this is Karthik.
Yes, Karthik.
So, I remember from my childhood days, I was not very good with math earlier in my beginning, in the fourth grade, fifth grade to be precise. So, in the summer holidays, my dad used to, sit with me, and he actually taught me, the basics of math and all that.
Mhm.
So, in that summer holidays, I saw myself changing a lot. That confidence has boosted me a lot, right, in math.
Mhm.
So that impression about a parent assisting a child to boost the confidence in particular subject, so that I could never forget.
Hmm.
So now, coming to our context here, right? So um, is that a good is that the right thing to do, to a child? Like, to that extent, we don't want to really handhold a child and teach the concepts here, but
Correct. Yeah.
I
So
am just little bit of, in a not so clear state of
no,
mind.
I totally got your question, and very relevant and very important question in this context, Karthik. Does it mean we don't teach our children? No, we still be teaching our children. We still be uh, telling stories to them. We'll still be reading to them. We'll still be discussing things with them. If they are not getting something, you can still teach directly, teach in traditional manner or whatever manner you seem to be able to help them. Correct? So what we are talking
Okay.
about, there are two things: a, teaching; two, promoting self-learning. So when I am trying to teach something to my younger one or elder one who are 15 or 8-year old, every time I am trying to teach something, I am trying to see how many times will I have to teach versus how do I teach such that next time she will be able to do it all by herself. Let's say if she's not able to understand a meaning of some word, I can open the dictionary, find and tell the meaning. Now, every time I do that, every time she's coming back to me. So if she's asking me for a meaning of something, then I will look at, okay, this time I can tell her the meaning. But she would want to know the meanings of hundreds and thousands of words. So what do I do? Do I give her the meaning right away, or do I teach her how to find for the meanings all by herself? Are you getting, Karthik?
Got it. Yeah. So apply the
Everybody.
same philosophy, right? So that is
Yes, yes. So
kind of
every time you're teaching something, try and see that what am I teaching and how am I teaching, such that will the child keep coming back to me for this kind of learning, or am I teaching to her in such a manner that after 1, 2, or 10 or 20th time, we know she doesn't have to come back to me. Yeah, Munira.
yep, got it.
Yeah, so just to add to what Pawan said, this is like the old adage which says that give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, and teach him to fish and you feed him for life. So that is exactly what the Montessori system talks about. That how do you give the right kind of tools for self-learning? So, like the example Pawan has taken is very relevant of that of a dictionary, because many a times children want to know the meanings, and we either provide the meaning, or we just keep telling them go to the dictionary, but we do not give them a whole lesson on how to use a dictionary. So in a dictionary there are multiple things that one can do. The child can look at words, she can find the spellings, she can find the pronunciations, she can find the meanings. There is so many possibilities just around a dictionary if we give them the right lesson about the dictionary, not about the question that the child asked, but take that as an opportunity to introduce the dictionary and say, okay, let me show you how to work with this dictionary now. And going back to the example that you gave, Karthik, about how your father spent that time in summer, so many a times we need to understand that when children lack in academics, in certain subjects, at times they are needing our emotional and physical support as well. That is actually the time where it is good to sit down with the child and figure out what is the issue. So the the intellectual abilities are always there in the children. Children are born all powerful, all potential, and they are perfect. There is absolutely never a problem with children. But the circumstances, the environment in which they grow up is what starts affecting their abilities. So, one powerful tool to help children with self learning is to provide the emotional support. Like, along with the math concepts that you learned in that summer, Karthik, I'm sure you also learned that your dad is always there. He has your back, right? He's there to support you whenever you do not find, or you find something challenging. I think that's what led you to do your master's in mathematics. Am I right, Karthik?
Yeah, that is true,
Right.
Munira.
So,
That
it
really
is
developed the interest, and yeah, I always knew that he
exactly.
was there.
Yeah, he was always there. And it is that momentary trust that a father sets in a child, which can completely change the course of the child's life. Now, along with all this emotional and physical, and the psychological support that we are giving to children, yes, they require a physical support. They require us to sit down with them. They require us to help them out with basic things, understand. And it's funny that sometimes certain concepts look so simple to us, but the same concept can completely bog down the child. A simple concept can be very hard for the child to understand, and some of the most complex concepts can be very simple for them. So the way their mind works, we've got to take it case by case and understand children and work with them. So what we normally recommend in the 0 to 6 year age group is to provide a lot of this emotional support for children and let them freely explore the world. This is the time you can ask them some very basic meaningful questions, but questioning does not go down well with them. So try to avoid the questioning as much as possible. Okay, to promote self-learning, we should stop questioning. Your need to know how much your child knows has to really be put under control, because we are, as parents, always want to know how much do you know. Okay, do you know this? Do you know 2 plus 2? Okay, you've been learning addition since 6 months. Now tell me, what is 2 plus 2, what is 3 plus 3, or what is 8 plus 9? So our questioning is what can really pressurize them, can put them under stress, and can really take away the interest in the subject and in the learning process per se. Okay, learning is something which is there in the child, and it's never going to go away unless somebody is going to thwart it, unless somebody is going to block it at some point. Okay, so 0 to 6, reduce the questioning, give more freedom, give as many topics, as many discussions as you can have, would support the self learning. Now, once the child has moved from the 0 to 6 age to the 6 to 12 age, we know that their intellectual abilities really expand. This is the time that they want to explore their world at the intellectual level. Now, questioning is a great tool. But what kind of questions are you asking? A lot of open-ended questions, questions which foster imagination, questions which will lead the child to learn more, questions which will lead the child into asking more questions. Those are the kind of questions we want to ask them right now. So in the 6 to 12-year age group, like we already spoke, that we give them a lot of stories. Now, a lot of these stories that we give them end with a question which say, I wonder if this is how it was even in that era, or I wonder if this is true every time we do it. So every time your child is being exposed to a certain concept, if you end with a very intriguing question, and the question is like, I wonder if this is possible every time, something very simple. So I remember during the lockdown period, my daughter had sowed some seeds and she was exploring the seeds, and I just said, I wonder if every seed sprouts within 3 days. I wonder if that's true. And that kind of ignited something in her, and she removed all the seeds that we had at home, sowed all of them, and started to research and figure out how many days does it take for the seeds to sprout. So a very random question and a very random thought, which I kind of put in her mind, ignited her imagination and her intellectual development, and put her into the motion of exploring further. So questioning, the right kind of questioning, open-ended questioning, is very, very critical and important at this age. The other tool that you can use is the tool of research. Like Pavan shared in the beginning of the conversation, that just while he would start getting interested in math period would get over and science teacher would come and take over the subject. Now that can really block the child's learning and the child's interest in a certain subject. So between 6 to 12, we must understand that children like to dwell on their learning and their understanding. So if they have been exposed to a certain subject, for example, let's say geography, or let's say you have introduced your child to the atlas, you have to allow them a lot of time to assimilate what they have learned. So they may want to spend sometimes days with the atlas. That's all they want to do. But that is what is required for them to learn the concepts around that particular subject. So spending a lot of time in doing that kind of research, or in reading, or in finding out more about each subject, would lead to a lot of self-learning. And if you notice that, the kind of research we do today is very quick, it's available at the click of a button, but that's not the research we are talking about. So let's say your child is interested in a certain country and wants to know more about the country. The best way to provide the resources is to only introduce them to a lot of books. And while they are reading the books, they are not just going to find about that particular topic. They're also going to come across many other topics. They're going to learn how they may not find all the information in one book. They may have to refer to 2, 3, 4 books to find the right kind of information. So questions can lead to further research. Research can be done through books. Research can be done through experiments. So like what my daughter did, she experimented with the seeds. That is also research. That could lead to they documenting their research and coming to a conclusion. And that would be their own experiment, their own research that leads to their own learning. That leads to the self-learning that we're talking about. All right. So these are some of the tools that you can use with your 6 to 12-year-old children. The other tool which children love to use at this age, and I'm sure any of you who have children in this particular age would relate to this, is that they like to question. Now, we would love to question them, but they also love to question us. And what are their questions all about mostly? How do things work and why? Excuse me. So the how and why questions that children are asking need to be addressed appropriately. We can also get them to frame more questions. We can also get them to talk to people and help them understand the tool of questioning. Use questioning as a tool to further find out things. Now, we have at in the Montessori system, we have a program called the Going Out program. So whenever children do not find answers to all their questions in the school environment, they have the option of going out to another place, maybe to a library or to another place where they may find more information and gather more information and further on with their research. I know that is not possible during the lockdown period, but you can definitely encourage your children to interview people. These interviews can happen over call. So if they want to find out more things about some a particular subject, you can connect them with the right people, and they will further conduct an interview with that person and find out how a certain thing works, or how what more happens in that particular area. Now, what happens when they are interviewing somebody? They not just understand what kind of questions they need to frame to have a successful interview, but they also learn how to schedule a meeting. They also learn how to conduct themselves in a meeting. They also learn how to ask the right kind of questions such that they get the correct answer, like leading questions, like we say. And they also learn how to assimilate information which another person is sharing with them. So their abstraction of a certain concept, or the way they gather a certain concept, the way they infer certain information, those skills also get refined when children learn how to do the right kind of interviews. So these are some of the tools that you can use with your children during this period to enhance the self-learning abilities that they have. So till now, in this session, we have spoken about why we need self-learning, how do we promote self-learning, but now exactly what to do, the right kind of tools is what we are supplying you with. All right, great. Any questions? Okay, there is a question which says, do role play help in self-learning? So Ismail, may I ask, what kind of role play are you talking about?
Hi, Munira.
Hi Tasneem. Yes.
Yeah. So role plays, in sense, they happen to play some family role plays, and they become father and mother, or they become doctors or teachers, and they start role playing.
Yes.
They consider themselves as an adult, basically, and they start acting as an adult. So does that help in self-learning?
It will definitely help the children in self-learning, but trust me, more than they learning anything about themselves, this is a great opportunity for you to learn something about them. Okay, so this is a
Something
great
about myself when they,
something about how they relate to you, or how they relate to that particular adult that they are becoming. So
Yeah.
it is a great tool for you to observe when they are doing the pretend play, because it's an insight into what their thoughts and emotions are. So it's a lot of self-learning for us adults.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yes. All right. Any other questions on this topic? We have 5 more minutes and we can take questions.
Yeah, Munira, this is Divya here.
Yes, Divya.
In elementary level, if as you said, we introduce the self-learning. I mean, self-learning happens in Montessori way, right? So they take their own time in exploring. After that, I think there should be some time limit for some. I mean, a few things, right? So will they able to cope up with that? I mean, discipline comes here, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. Pawan, would you like to answer that?
Yes, yes.
Very
So,
interesting question.
yeah, very interesting question. And what you also said that, there has to be certain discipline.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at our children who go to traditional school, they they are made to sit in one place and they are made to write. But what percentage of children are able to do that? Every child who is in the traditional manner, traditional system child, at the end of the academic year, what percentage of those children are able to reproduce in that fixed time?
Yeah.
Not many, right? Now,
Yes.
yeah. So
Yes.
I'll give you now insights into that. See,
Mm.
that discipline there is external discipline, whereas what we promote with self-learning, Montessori, and Blue Blocks is inner discipline. Once that inner discipline is there, the ability to answer that question is there, then we start giving them the time frame. Now, if you look at children who are 9, 10 plus, as they are growing now, if you give them some word problems, just solving those word problems or math problems is not interesting anymore because they have been solving it for quite some time.
Mm.
To make it a little more interesting and challenging, now we start giving them some time frame that you need to solve these 20 problems in 20 minutes. So we put the timer on and now this is exciting for them.
Okay.
So to prepare them from the for the traditional exams, this is how we would do it, where this is not like a force, pressure, or they're doing it out of fear that I have to do it in 20 minutes. This is now interesting, exciting, and they are challenging themselves and they love to challenge themselves. So when you keep doing that very regularly, now they know how to start planning their time, how to focus during that time, and how to do it within that time frame.
Okay. I just want to know whether this has been taken care or not in this
Absolutely.
philosophy. Yeah.
Absolutely. See, it's like what we want you to get is that this philosophy, while it is developmental, it also takes care of all the results which you and I want, which the traditional system wants, which any board wants. In
Okay.
fact, it takes care of more than what any board wants or can expect from children,
Mm.
because the board's expectation is of a average child who's been a product of a traditional school.
Mm.
Now, a child who's been doing self learning, we are talking about this kind of self learning right from 1.5, 2 years, 3 years till they are 15 years, versus a child who's totally been guided by the adult and where he was part of totally adult driven system. This child will be much more equipped
Mm.
to deal with life, to deal with exams. See, here I will bring up the IIT kind of entrance. If you look at our IIT kind of entrance versus our intermediate exam. Our intermediate board exams are driven by memory. Children who have great memory can reproduce and get 99.9% in 10th and 12th board, correct? Now, how many of these children who are getting 96%, 95% can crack IIT?
No.
They cannot crack IIT because there it is not memory driven. Only some percentage of these children are able to crack IIT, because there what is finally important is how well do you know the concepts and how you can play with the concepts. And our children have been playing with the concepts since they are 3, 4 year old. They play with material, they explore the material, they connect this concept with some other concept, they interchange, they come up and make their own material.
Got
Getting
it,
this?
Pawan. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So it's 4 o'clock. As we do normally, we will close the session formally and we can still take questions after we formally close. So thank you so much again for being on this call. It was wonderful having each one of you on this call. And we have a couple of more sessions tomorrow and day after. See you tomorrow and day after. All right. And for those of you who have to leave, feel free to leave. Those of you who want to stay back, feel free to stay back, whether you have questions or not. It will be interesting for you to know others' questions and get our response on their questions. All right. So I'm unmuting everybody and let's acknowledge everybody once. Thank you so much for being part. Let's take questions. You have a question, you want to share something, what you have got, what you have not got, what are you still struggling with, what are your concerns about what we discussed, what do you see is possible for your children if we promote this self-learning. Ask, share anything you want. Please go ahead. Nobody has questions? Okay, no questions. Great. Anything you would like to share of what is opening up for you? What do you think is possible?
Sir, I have a question, but not related to today's topic, some other topic. Can I?
Sure, sure, sure. Go ahead.
Like I told you, my son is 6 years old, and in his level 3, he had learned tables through multiplication board. And in a traditional system, as you know, they teach like 9 ones are 9, 9 twos are 18, that way. So, how does that make a difference in a multiplication board? The child who has learned through multiplication board and the one who has done through traditional system.
Would you like to address that, Munira?
Yeah. So, Jyoti, what I understand is that your question is that what is the difference between a child who has
Yeah.
learned it through the multiplication board and the child who is learned it
Yeah.
directly at the
Yes.
abstract level, correct?
Yes.
So now please understand that your child, when he was working with the multiplication board, he has not just learned the multiples by rote, but he has experienced multiplying. He has experienced the concept of multiplying. He knows that when we say 2 times 3, it means we have to have a set of 2 3 times. So it is a very concrete understanding that has gone into him before it becomes abstract. And this concrete understanding requires a lot of repetition and a lot of concrete material to work with before it becomes abstract. So it is catered to his long term memory, where it is going to be stored forever. That is the basic difference between a child who has learned it at the abstract level and a child who has got it at the concrete level. Did I answer your question, Jyoti?
Yes, yes. I'm very much satisfied.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Any questions, anything you would like to share before we complete the call? All right. Great. Shall we sign off? Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on this call again. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.